Hey John, welcome to the Vanflip podcast. It's great to have you on here. It's under great circumstances too that we kind of have you on here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been a kind of a busy weekend. I don't know really where to start because it's been such a busy week for you guys and just like a busy time and recently. So
Yeah.
I guess what I'll do is preface with just congratulating you on the 20 years. You just kind of did a 20-year anniversary of the debut album, so congratulations.
Yeah, it was this weekend. It's wild, man.
Yeah. How does that
Wild.
feel? How does that feel to have like a child that's like, almost drinking age now?
Oh, I mean, I was thinking about this. We did a show last summer, right? And I was thinking about Memory because I wrote that at the first practice with Dead to Fall. So that song is like 20, it was 23 years old at the time. And I was like, this song could drink. Like it's that old.
Yeah.
There are people at this show that are younger than this song is. I mean, so it's like, of course you get that first overwhelming of like, oh crap, I'm old. Um,
Yeah.
like that's just
Aging.
kind of the first, yeah, it ages you a little bit. But then like thinking back to like, wow, like I've been in this band and that album has been out longer as a part of my life than it hasn't been, because that was
Yeah.
my 40th birthday, was that show. So I was like, man, that's like most of a majority of my life I've been doing this band. So I mean, there's all kinds, and I can get into it too. But the amount of people on the post I made yesterday, I almost like forgot to make one. Um, I was
Yeah.
like, all right, I'll make a post about it. Like maybe someone will care. And it just like an overwhelming amount of people were like, oh, this is like the first thing I found in high school that got me in, that wasn't like something I saw on TV, or this is like,
Mhm.
I got this on a Victor Records sampler, or, this is what got me into heavy music. And it's like, that's really cool. Cause I mean, I kind of think about a lot of those songs we probably don't play very often. They're really old. We'd rather play some other stuff most of the time.
Right, right.
But there's people on there who are just like songs that I think of as like, hey, that's not really that great of a song. We wrote that when we were like 18. There's people on like, I asked, what's your favorite song on the record? And people are saying stuff that I'm like, wow, people like that song. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's nice to kind of get that feedback, and really get some love. So that really was heartwarming.
Yeah. I mean, it's odd that you said you almost forgot about to post something on social media because we had talked earlier in the week this week and you were like, yeah, the 20th anniversary is coming up, so you kind of knew it was going on. It's just kind of weird how like the day comes and you're like, oh shit, yeah, it's today's the day and whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, like I hadn't pre-written anything or like designated a post to like post at a certain time. Like we had said we were going to try to talk yesterday, but I was like, I've been in the city for a month straight since I moved here, and I was like, I got to get out in the woods. Like I'm going to lose my mind. It's just I had to. I needed. It was the only day I could do it. So I appreciate you rescheduling for a day. But
No
then I got
problem.
back from like I did a 13-mile hike. I got up to the top of a mountain, got back down, took the train back in. It was like 7 o'clock at night. So I'm in Madrid, in Spain. And so it's 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, well, I guess it's like noon in Chicago. People might see it or whatever. I'll put a post up and like text the guys from that lineup and be like, hey, happy birthday to our baby, you know.
Yeah.
So it was pretty cool, But at the same time, I kind of was like, I guess. But then I saw Jamie from Victory had posted, Mike from Victory had posted, a couple other people had already done like, hey, 20th anniversary to this record. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll do a post. And then I was like looking for pictures from us recording, and I couldn't find them. I was like, I'll just do the album cover. But it seems like people are kind of interested in the story of it as well. So I know there's pictures somewhere of us recording that record. I believe Brian has them. And they're actually practicing this weekend. So like I had a hard time getting a hold of him to try to get pictures from him. So like last minute, right? Like everything else. So
Yeah.
just it was nice, put it up. Yeah.
So you brought up Madrid. I'll try to hold that off a little bit because I definitely want to get into that. But since we're talking
Yeah.
about Brian and the boys practicing, there's again a lot's been going on this week for you guys. You guys released a
Yep.
couple tracks, which
Yep.
it's been a little bit since you kind of did that. This will come out in October, so maybe by this time, I don't know. You let me know. Will the
Yeah,
third
yeah.
song be
Well,
out?
that third one will be out. We're gonna put that out this week. We had hoped to put it out on Saturday, and then just like the cards didn't fall the right way with like the release schedule stuff with our distribution company. So it'll come out this week. So we planned on trying to release. Originally, I was like, let's put out songs the 3 Fridays before Furnace Fest. We have these 3 songs done. Let's track them. That'll give us some like good energy going into Furnace Fest. And then that's when I realized it was also the 20th anniversary of the record. Like I hadn't even put that together.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh wow, that's really great. Like I think it's just like a kind of a cool historical thing. And so we did Cero de la Muerte first, and then Empire Pines, and the third song's called Rotten Decay, and that one's coming out this week. Yeah.
Awesome.
So we're talking in September right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
because I looked for it yesterday, honestly, because I remember you saying that the 20th anniversary was Saturday. So I was
Right.
like, well, we'll make a post for social media and such like that. And I knew that you had said that you might just like try to surprise drop it on Saturday without really saying anything. So I had looked for it, and I was going to make a post on, Lambgoat and whatnot to see if we could, help get that out there. But alas, it didn't.
Well, and here's the other thing is I'm really glad that we didn't, because the Queen died, and so like literally everything got buried.
True.
And tons of stuff came out on Friday too. So I was like, let's put it out on Friday, and then like, nobody drops tracks on Saturday, so let's just drop it on the second one on Saturday, just like a 1-2 punch.
Mm-hmm.
So we're, I don't know. It used to be music came out on Tuesdays
Yeah,
when we
I
released
remember.
albums, right? And then like now everything comes out on Fridays. So I was like, why does everything come out on Fridays? I mean, you can select whatever date you want. So like, I think Lamb of God this week dropped a single on like a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see it just be like a random splattering of stuff, like New Music Fridays. That's cool. You can kind of like get a good glimpse of everything that came out, but it is just kind of like sometimes things just get totally buried, especially if there's a big news event on a Friday.
Or it's just the weekend, so a lot of people don't really pay attention. I in my head, I think a lot of people just don't really pay attention to, what's going on, because they're so focused to the weekend. Like most people who are listening to music or buying music are relatively at a young age, so they're kind of like just focused on the time off that they have from work and school or whatnot. And I think it does get lost in the communication and translation of the week ending.
Yeah, and it's NFL opening weekend too. So like most
Yeah.
people are going to be, at least the Bears are going to suck, and we're all going to watch it. So like that's just part of the way we're going to go about it.
Yeah, I was going to say,
got my cool jersey on.
Yep,
It's the only one. I got rid of all the rest of my jerseys. It's the only one that matters now. Number one point scorer in Bears history.
Do you and James Hart ever talk about the Bears? Because he seems to be a big Bears fan as well.
He seems. I think he's more of a Cubs fan than anything else. He rocks the Cubs stuff. We've only talked a few times. It's pretty funny that like him and I think Brandon Chipetti also has like some Chicago ties.
Yeah.
I always thought this was crazy about 18 Vision. Just totally aside, right? Is that like the singer of Bleeding Through and the singer of Throwdown were the guitar players in 18 Visions?
Yeah.
Like what? Like all three of those bands are massive.
Yeah, they're all three. They all come from the little same area. You know what I mean? They all like just have members that share duties in other bands and roles in other bands. It's kind of crazy how like just little pockets of scenes can blow up in general. You know what I mean? Just like there's pockets from your area, there's pockets from California, there's pockets from the Northeast, obviously, that have just like all these bands that used to just play together in the same street. They all used to live on the same street basically.
And our trifecta was Endless Day, Seven Angels, Seven Plagues, and Dead to Fall. Like we always played with those bands together.
Yeah, it's crazy, but so yeah.
Anyway, total aside. Yeah.
Let's get back to the new material and such, because a lot of people have been waiting for a while, because you guys disbanded early in in the aughts or late aughts, early 2010 area. You guys had a little falling out with each other and whatnot, and then you guys did get back together in 2017, and you were going to be making some new music, making an album, and it kind of feels like we're just finally getting over that hump of maybe, I don't want to say like a new album, but we obviously have like a sampler / small EPs worth of tracks that are coming out.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And again, you guys are getting back together. Brian and the boys are practicing, like you said, and you guys have a show announced at Furnace Fest. So it seems like all the parts are moving, but you also live in another country. So I wonder how that's working out.
I mean, I was living in Florida. Anton was living in Florida for a while, and Brian, Dan were in Chicago, and Justin's been in Atlanta since he left Dead to Fall. So I mean, back to the history. There's the original lineup, and then basically one by one people left, and there was like a totally different lineup on Phoenix Throne and Are You Serious? Right. That lineup disbanded, I think 2008, like right after Are You Serious came out. We did that last show in 2009. 2015, we did a Darkest Hour tour with that lineup, the Are You Serious lineup. 2016, we did Everything I Touch Falls to Pieces vinyl release show for the 14th anniversary, because that's the big one.
Yes.
And then the next year we did the same. Yeah, we did the same for Villainy and Virtue the next year. Victory wanted to put out the vinyl. I was like, okay, we'll do a show to support that. And then we worked on music for a while, but it was kind of a lot of knocking the cobwebs off. We did like 3-4 shows a year. We did a couple festivals here and there. And then we just hit a grind kind of stoppage with just people falling into work, relationship stuff, being in different states and different places, and not being able to like get that organic kind of like we all show up to the practice space and just write together. And how does this work? How does it, does it function? Then COVID happened. A lot of people got really productive through COVID. We did not. A lot. I'll say it this way. Some of us had some really personal stuff going on at the same time too, that just kind of took the front edge of things. And so the other thing that happened over the course of probably the last year and a half is that we got Dan got to the place that he realized he couldn't, be able to play drums with us with how busy he was at working with his family. So Tim, who's on the Phoenix Throne and Are You Serious records, came back and he's playing drums now. So it's Brian, Anton, Justin, myself, and Tim Java.
So it's basically almost the entire original lineup, just minus the drums.
Yeah, but Tim has played more shows than besides myself, and then Logan probably played like a month and a half more worth of shows than Tim did before Tim joined, because Tim started touring on Villainy and Virtue. So Tim has been like, he's played over 1,000 shows in Dead to Fall. So it's like just kind of getting different parts of the family back together, and we've all been friends, and it's kind of turning into now like, how can we fit in all the different eras and combine? Like Logan was going to play Furnace Fest with us, but then his other band Blue Ox had a show and he couldn't make it. And we're like, let's just pull, like every now and then Matt Matera pops up and wants to play a show. And we've got like just different guys that were like fundamental aspects of the band throughout the years. And so it's kind of our story. So why ignore that and not kind of lean into that? So it'll be curious how we move forward with writing. Anton is a beast. He's writing all the new stuff. We'd like to see how, other guitar players fit into that mix, and we're not opposed to some other ideas. And we've got some things kind of cooking that I can't talk about yet, but there's some ideas for next year that we're talking about some different things too.
Awesome. The Ocala, I mean, you guys living in Florida was something I kind of wasn't aware of, because I also live here in Florida as well. But because when you guys released the Empire Pines track, and the teaser and all that stuff had like the oak trees or the I assume they're oak trees because you're in Florida and Ocala.
Pine trees, man.
Pine trees. Sorry, yeah. What the heck? But anyway, I'm so there's so many oak trees in Florida. I was like, yeah, they're in Ocala National Forest, so it's whatever. But me and Dylan, who was a partner here at Lambgoat, who was also a big Dead to Fall fan, he was super stoked that you guys were releasing new music. So he wanted me to let you know he's happy about that.
Hell yeah, dude.
But he was like, I don't understand the Ocala, like all the Ocala imagery and all this stuff. And I go, I don't know. I didn't really pay attention to it because I forgot you guys were from, Illinois and stuff like that, because it's been so long and stuff. So
yeah. I moved to Tampa in 2009. I moved to Sanford first, and I lived there. I did construction. Then I went back to school at University of South Florida. And then that's like my whole teaching career was in Tampa. And like, that's when I fell in love with the woods. I've always kind of loved going out and hiking and stuff, but that was the first time I really did like long overnight, multiple day hikes, was doing chunks of the Florida Trail with my really good friend, Brett. Yeah. I used to work at this German restaurant called Mr. Dunderbox. And it's like, if you ever go to Tampa, go to Mr. Dunderbox, the best schnitzel you'll ever have. But me and Brett, he really turned me on to the Florida Trail, and doing chunks of the Ocala National Forest and the Green Swamp are probably my two favorite parts. But Empire Pines is about the Ocala National Forest. It's about like the way that I felt. I did a solo hike through there, and the way that I felt walking through the pine trees as like, this is my empire. I am like king of this world. Like, I have turned off everything outside of, work doesn't exist. Relationships don't exist. Nothing exists except for me keeping myself alive and putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward. And I mean, that's really all those like overnight long hikes are. It's just if you stay alive and you feed yourself, and you just got to get to the next destination. And to me, it kind of readjusts life in general, because now it's like, okay, really, that is all that matters. Just when I get back, it's the same thing. Is I just need to keep myself alive, and I need to put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward. So it kind of just really focuses in on what I need to survive, and what I need as a human being is just making life just one step better every single day, and then just trying to make it to the next morning. No matter like if it's the worst day you've ever had, if you can make it through that day, that's a success, and that's worth celebrating. And every time I go out in the woods, that's just the lesson that I reteach myself every time.
Yeah.
I fell in love then after the Florida Trail. I'm really glad I cut my teeth hiking starting on the Florida Trail because
Yeah.
sugar sand is a bitch. Like,
Yeah.
well, hiking through that is the worst. Hiking with no shade through like palmetto grove and like palmetto, like just giant dense thickets of it, is Florida sun blaring on you. Not really drinkable water anywhere. It's like swamp
Right.
water, and even
Right.
though you treat it, it's still kind of green, and it's like so you're
Gross.
hiking with like gallons of water in your backpack. It's just and water's heavy. So then after I did that, I started going about 4 years ago. I started going up to North Carolina and doing chunks of the Appalachian Trail, about like a week to
Dude.
10 days at a time. And it is so much. I mean, yeah, there's mountains and yeah, there's tons of elevation gain, and that's harder. But the fact that there's water coming out of the earth and you can just drink it, and it's
Yeah.
ice cold, and there's like shelters you can sleep in, and there's other people. Like
Yeah.
nobody hike the Florida Trail, especially if you hike in the summer. There's no one out there. Nobody.
It's
So, you know.
funny. It's funny you bring all that up because I think we were probably mobbing around Tampa at the same time because I moved down there early 2010s. So probably like
Okay.
2011. I lived down there too for a
Where'd
number
you
of
live?
years. Brandon,
Hmm.
like on
I
the
was in Seminole Heights.
okay, cool. I was on the other side
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like the Brandon Mall on 60 and stuff like that, or
Oh yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
60 and
I
Causeway.
I got this tattoo, which is a green puffer fish from Denise, Dan Craig's wife, Denise Craig Tattoos, at Atomic in the Brandon Mall.
Oh, cool. I
Yeah,
got
yeah.
I got this leg sleeve here in Ybor City at the Blue Devil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
So
I learned really quickly leave Ybor before the sun goes down because like just like constantly just bro dudes trying to fight everybody. Like
you know what's funny? I spent a lot of time down there, unfortunately, because I was a little young. I was, quite a bit younger back then. It was a little more than 10 years ago, but I spent a lot of time down there. And I heard always the same thing. And I never actually had any issues for, knock on wood, that whenever I was out there drinking
yeah,
and doing whatever else, partying, because that's like the club little get down area. But
yeah,
it's
dude. Sink
also,
or swim at the Orpheum. You ever do that? That was the
no, I never
classic one.
did. I never did.
Yeah,
I did go to the Orpheum for shows and whatnot, but I didn't do
absolutely. Yeah.
that.
The old
Um,
Orpheum or the new Orpheum? It's
it's
not
part
even new anymore. It's the one with the really big stage or the one that like you could still smoke inside. I think they moved
probably.
it was 2010 probably when they moved to the other because the Church of Scientology bought that whole block that the Orpheum was
Oh
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, so
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
side, yeah, other
Sure,
side,
sure,
yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, because it's not in the best part, or it wasn't in the best part of town. Ybor City, technically isn't in the best part of town. But I actually had a friend, her and her boyfriend, got robbed there, and they had some gun violence happen to them too. So it was kind of a scary moment after that. But funny you bring up the hiking and stuff like that because I also
Yeah.
got into hiking as well, but I've never done the Florida Trail, and for those who don't know, it's like what, like almost 1,000 miles long. It's
It's
pretty
like
long.
yeah, almost 1100. It goes from Miami all the way up into the Panhandle,
Yeah.
connects to the Pinhoti Trail through Alabama, and then you can take it around. There's one trail, I think the Ben McKay Trail, and then that connects to the Appalachian Trail. So there's a dude in Florida named Jupiter Hikes. He's got a YouTuber, and he
Hmm.
did the whole thing all the way through. Like it's like almost 4,000 miles, I think. By
Yeah.
the time you get done with it, it's nuts. But yeah, Florida
That's
Trail. Yeah, you're right there, like Lake City. What is that? Like an hour and a half? You're in Jacksonville, right?
yeah, yeah. It's 80 miles from here, so you just head west on I-10, and you're in
Yeah,
Lake City in like an hour and a half. So
that you follow this Suwannee River for like a
okay,
good 50
nice.
miles right there. That's probably one of the most beautiful and easiest chunks of the Florida Trail, I think. Yeah.
It's never really, and I got into hiking because I got I so, like 10 years ago or whatever. I started an obsession with the Appalachian Trail, and I was just like, I couldn't believe that people were actually doing the whole trail, and it would take months to do it, right? So like I got
Dude,
obsessed with
yeah.
rabbit holes on YouTube, and that's how I got
Yeah.
into this outdoorsman life. And
Sure.
I started looking up other trails because like I couldn't, a regular person can't go, all right, I want to do the Appalachian Trail. I'm going to cut out this 4 to 5 chunk month of my life, to
Right.
hike it. So I was like, well, what else is around me? And then I found
Yeah.
the Florida Trail, but I was in researching it and looking it up. I was like, I don't want to do that because I live here and it's brutally hot. And like you were saying, there's not a lot of shade. So I would look at videos of people walking the trail, the Florida Trail, and Florida's sea level. So if it rains or if something happens, there's a lot of flooding on the trail. There's also
Yeah.
like all sorts of snakes and other kind of like
Yep.
wildlife that are coming in
Yep.
here. you know, and like the Florida Panther is a real thing too. So it's weird how you were saying like staying alive on the trail. Somewhat like more dangerous down here than doing some of the parts of the Appalachian Trail when you're hiking.
Yeah, I think the anything south of the Green Swamp is almost all just palmetto, and like there's not much tree cover. The closer you get to through the Ocala, the reason I love the Ocala one is you walk through pines, you walk
Yeah.
through oak, you walk through palmettos, you walk through all kinds of different feeling kind of there's hilly spots. When you get to the Swanee River, you have all those white sand limestone beaches that you can camp on. There's the really beautiful parts, and it's pretty well shade covered the further north you get, and less snakes and less panthers and less out. There is like no like wading through the swamps and stuff like that you have to do up there.
Yeah.
So if anybody's going to do it, I would recommend the chunk closer to the Panhandle. That was the part I liked the most. But living in Tampa, the Green Swamp was the closest. And then if you could get up into the forest, like because it's just the Ocala National Forest is a crazy place, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know about the rainbow people, right?
Yeah.
You know, like this like a hippie commune that just lives in the forest in like their buses, and like you just come across them and there's like 50 buses of just like hippies hanging out in this forest.
Strangers, in the woods. It's crazy.
Random, yeah. They just live there.
So you also did some Appalachian Trail, or some of the Appalachian Trail in North Carolina, which oddly enough I have also done, because like I said, I got super into the YouTube, and I would watch people like vlog their trips through the entire thing. Did you ever, I don't know what sections you did, but did you ever like do the Chio Bald Peak and everything, or what sections did you do in North Carolina?
I've done from the approach trail from through Springer and then up to Hot Springs. So like the first like 300 miles of it. This year I was like, because I can get into this in a minute, but I quit my job and didn't pay rent or a mortgage for a year.
Nice.
And just traveled. So I sold my house and took half the money from my house and just like traversed the earth and went to places I always wanted to go, not having the time to really travel and go do that stuff. But I got to walk the Appalachian Trail with through hikers, because every other time I went was like July, when there's like no only section hikers out there. Right. So getting to hike with people like in a bubble of actual hikers that are doing the whole trail post COVID was really cool. But it is like there's people who are just fresh out of college or out of high school who like it's
the spectrum is I ran into everybody.
There's three groups though. Like there's three groups. This is what it is. It's like people in their like early 20s. It's people that are retired, and then it's people like me who are 40 and having a midlife crisis and like just out there and doing it. You know,
that's true.
It's that's like true. Those are the three groups of people. But like depending when you go, the section hiking is pretty cool too, because there was times I went out 2020 during COVID, and there was days I didn't see a single soul.
Yeah.
Like because Georgia didn't close the trail down, so I hiked the Georgia chunk that year.
Nice.
I think other states closed the trail down, but I was like, Georgia and Florida, their COVID didn't exist. Like whatever, it didn't hit those states. You do whatever you wanted.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, you lived it. I lived it. It was very
exactly.
Strange. That was such a strange thing, because we started doing the Zoom interviews during that time, because prior to COVID and all that shutdown stuff, I would just have the bands over to the house, and I lived close to the venues and here in town, and I still do. I would bring them over to the house, and we would just sit on the couch and just like have the podcast. That's usually how we do this. But when COVID hit, we started doing this. But I also started talking to everybody, about like how they were doing during COVID, like what's it like for COVID where you're at. And it was just so strange, because this is way early on in the pandemic too. Things here were not how they were out there. And I had to kind of had to not say a lot. I had to kind of like, I never really talk about this, but I had to like hold back a lot when we were talking about that stuff, because, it's viewing the eyes, viewing the situation through the eyes of a Floridian was different, because
it really,
regardless of where you stand on the subject, it didn't seem like we down here, we got a bad rap for sure, but it didn't seem like a whole lot changed once, the initial scare was obviously everyone took it seriously, and not that we
like those for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, we shut down, but then people were like, screw that, you know what I mean? And it was just strange how that kind of played out, but not to get down that rabbit hole. But I still want to talk to you about the hiking things. That's cool.
Yeah. We can. Everybody's talked about COVID enough. Like we all know. It's fine.
We beat that dead horse to death over here on the podcast for sure for a year and a half. But so that was one of the coolest things that I did actually was, I started looking up those videos on like people hiking and whatnot. And then for some reason, Chihuahua Bald kind of like stood out to me because it was, it's like 54,000 or 5,400 feet up in the air. And, in North Carolina, and like the top of the mountain's kind of like bald. So you can kind of see all around. And, I just visually saw that on YouTube. And then, I said, screw it. The person I was with at the time, her dad had a house that just happened to be like, 20 minutes away from where the trail was at, near that area. So we just took a week and I went up there and did it. And it was just kind of cool to like, you see something online for so long, like, like an
Yeah.
Instagram post or something like that. And then you just show up there. And it's crazy, like you were saying, how different amounts of people at different times of the year are on there. Because we went in
Yeah.
November, so it was kind of, it was kind of
Oh,
cold. And
wow.
we took the dog and, and it was all just like the leaves are changing and stuff like that. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
you get to the top of the bald and it's just like, wow. And nobody was up there. And we stayed the night up there, which probably wasn't the best idea because it got to like 28 degrees with the wind whipping and stuff. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That you camp. I mean, I'm always tempted to camp on top of a bald or camp on top of a mountain, but all you need is just one storm to rip through, and like
yeah,
you're just toast.
yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Luckily, it
Especially in
was
the
rain
winter,
back
man.
there.
Like I would love to be out there in November when you're all bundled up and like that's a different beast than the sweaty monstrosities that I would hike. But even like hiking through Georgia in the summer in July, there'd be nights that would get down to like 67 on top of a
Yeah.
mountain. Like some of those shelters are pretty close to a peak, and it was pretty nice. So how many nights were you guys out?
Well, I had 3 days scheduled for it, and where we started was the Nocatee Outdoor or the Nanahala Outdoor Center.
Oh,
That's,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's where we started. So we walked through there, and then it's about a 7.5, 8 mile hike to the top of the Bald, which
Going south or going north?
going north. So
Okay.
you go north from the NOC, and you're there like 8 miles.
Because
Now
the
this
climb going south is just brutal.
is it. So
Yeah, yeah.
did you go north to south?
I've done both.
No. Yeah, okay, yeah, because you said you started at Springer, so that's south to north.
Well,
Right?
the first year I did Springer, and then the next year I went through the Smokies, going south to the Knock, and then the other year I started then at the north end of the Smokies and went up to Hot Springs. That's what I did
Cool.
this year. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so we got there and I hadn't this is something I'm not like a hiker. I never really did any kind of like outdoor hiking like that. So, we're like completely green. We have like canned food in our bag because I thought, that seemed like a great idea. No
Sure.
weight
Yeah.
problems there, no weight or anything.
Nope.
So it was a
Don't
brutal.
hiking out with cans is it's always fun.
Yeah, we know that now. But yeah, it took us 2 days to get to the top because we were just like flat level ocean level terrain citizens and
Yep.
then walking up
Yep.
those inclines. It was brutal, man. But we spent 3 days up there on the mountain, so to speak, and up there and back
Sure.
down. But the morning that we woke up after freezing all night on top of the Bald, like clouds and low hanging mist and stuff like that just kind of like all came in through the valleys, and we woke up and like we were the only thing on top of the clouds that morning at
Oh,
7 o'clock in the
yeah.
morning. So it
Yeah.
was like, oh fuck, this is all worth it. Like it's so crazy because like again, you're up there and everything is just so grand because you're seeing so much. Like there's so much
Mhm.
land and you're just there's no real civilization around you. And luckily, we didn't have like a lot of through hikers or hikers coming through when we were there. So like it was very like remote feeling and it was just like cool, and like just seeing all that, it makes you really I've been wanting to go back so bad. And me and my buddies, I have a buddy who's in the service and he's about to get out in a couple of years, like 3 years. And that's kind of like our goal. Like once he gets out, we'll all take time off somehow and like do the whole thing as a group because that it's just like an awesome thing. Like for
I'm
someone who's interested in hiking at all or even not, I think like if you look that stuff up, it is just insane that how like quickly you'll get into it.
Well, yeah, and just getting out there. There is a trail. There's a 100-mile trail in South Carolina that goes, I think, from the ocean towards the mountains.
Mm.
I forget the name of it. It's not the land to sea trail, but it's something like that. But there are trails all over the place, and just getting out and doing like one overnight,
Yeah,
finding a loop and hiking. That's kind of where I started too, just doing little loops.
loops.
Or we drop one car, go out on a Friday, come back on a Sunday night, and just really learning like weight of food and what food to bring and how to prep
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah,
And the thing that I think I forget every single year is I'm only bringing one shirt. I don't need more than one shirt. It's all going to get stinky. It's all going to get soaked. No one's going to want to come near me anyway. So like you don't need to bring all this stuff. And every year, 3 days in, I hit a post office and I mail like 10 pounds of
Yeah.
shit back home. I'm
Yeah.
just like, I don't even, and I should know by now, like how to have my pack dialed in and lightweight, but like you bring like, oh, I'm going to bring like this book and read it. No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're going to get to the campsite and you're going to sleep, like, oh, I'm going to write lyrics and work on songs. No, you're not. Like, don't even bring that stuff.
Yeah. You're just in a different world.
Yeah, and it is or like I don't know, I'm gonna need this piece. I'm gonna bring a chair, so I know you don't need those things. Just the bare essentials to keep yourself alive.
Yeah,
Which is, back to it. Like it's just what do you need to keep yourself afloat and keep yourself alive? And it's all on your back and you're hiking it. You're lugging it up the mountain and down the mountain. And you're going to places that are inaccessible otherwise. You have to walk up to get to that ball, to get to that viewpoint, to get to that campsite, to be on top of the clouds and have that view where you're the king of the world. You're the only human being that exists, like in that moment. And I think it's just realigning for me. And I'm sure you felt the same way being up there. It's just like, wow, like all that shit that I was worried about doesn't matter.
Yeah. It did put a lot in perspective. And then also like I did get to camp at the top of the ball, like I said, and like, you're out there with limited light pollution in those areas of the world, you know what I mean? And you're elevated too. So like when the sun goes down and the night sky comes out, like that was like the first time I'd really seen like as much of the Milky Way as I could see, and that was part of it too. Like that was a whole part of me trying to go out there because I know that light pollution in like the city area and just, certain places off the highway have limited visibility at night with the dust and the reflection of the lights coming, so it was really cool to see that. And it just puts you into perspective. And like I said, some of the coolest pictures I have are of me up top of that ball, just being like, I had a much larger beard back then. And it was just like very like Bushman, but I totally was not Bushman. So, it was my first, foray out there. But
you did something that most people will never do. Even if it is hiking up and being out there for 3 days and having enough food and knowing, like how to, did you bring water filters or did you guys lug your water up or did you just drink straight?
We had camelbacks and we brought like the little pills that you put in there, which that really was not ideal. I probably should have just drank the water straight up. But.
Well, the Sawyer squeeze that you can just take that fits onto a smart water bottle. And it's not the straw. It's just like it's a filter, and you squeeze it out into a bag or whatever, and then you can fill up your CamelBak that way. That's the way to go. And like I just would meet people, and I had this little tiny bag, and I was trying to fill up my water, and then this guy's like, "Oh, I bought this silicone 2-liter water bag off Amazon." And I was like, that's genius. You only have to go down to the spring one time. You have 2 liters of water.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here just going back and forth, just trying to cook all day. And like everybody there is just, all they want to talk about is gear. It's like being on tour. It's the same thing. It's just it's like, so like, what amp do you have? It's like, oh, so what kind of backpack are you using? And like, that's just, people out there just want to talk about hiking. So it's like every other hobby. But
the people that you run into, it's funny you talk about like what to pack and what to bring. It's like the more seasoned people that you see out there are like, as minimalist as possible. They just sleep on the ground or something like that for the most part. Right? They have like the very small little padding, that they fold up, that's another thing too, is what I thought was very strange is when I started researching, and a lot of people probably don't even know this, and you brought this up earlier, how there's a water source and there's a shelter, some kind of shelter, some are more glamorous than others, but there are shelters every few miles. So it's not like technically you are definitely out in the woods. You're out there on your own.
Yeah.
And there are times when I'm hiking on the trails, I'm going like, holy moly, this is like for real dangerous. Like you could just fall, you know what I mean? Like you just fall and you're hurt/dead and no one's coming. So, it's definitely dangerous, but there's shelters everywhere, so like there is that feeling of like, okay, well, somewhat safe, but you're definitely out there on the elements.
Yeah, I think it was Charlie's Bunyan is in the Smoky Mountains. That was the sketchiest. There is like, that's the only like ridge line where it's like the mountain and like the trails like on the side of the mountain. And then there's like another drop off here, so like you're just like walking across and you're like, well, I mean, like, what am I going to do? Go back? Yeah. Like there's nowhere to go back. I have to go forward. It's
there's no rope. There's no rope. There's no handrail. It's kind of really primitive. Yeah. Super primitive. You only have the white blaze and like, you better hope you find that every couple of, 100 feet or so. But, God, we could talk about hiking all day, so let's get off of this topic.
Wait, all right, so let me try. This is a great segue then, because you said white blaze. I could segue back to the cover. So we're doing 3 different covers for the singles. Our friend Chris Lapinto from Chicago did a great job, I think, giving us like a new logo, new kind of style of artwork that like just feels fresh and like a new take.
It is
But if you
great.
look
I
in
have to
that,
comment on that. That Empire Pine stuff, the imagery is all cool. As a designer, I definitely enjoy that.
yeah, there's a little orange blaze on one of the trees on the cover of Empire Pines. So that's the Florida Trail blaze, is the orange
Ah,
blaze.
nice, interesting.
So like that, if you're a Florida Trail person, you can look for that, zoom in on it. And then Rotten Decay has a deflated possum carcass that. So I mean I'm going to tell the story of it because like I've kind of like have put it out there, so I kind of got to. But like I went through probably the worst depression of my life through COVID. Went through a divorce. Went through like living all of COVID. My dog died like a couple weeks into COVID. It's basically a country song. Like my wife left and my dog died and COVID started like all at the same time.
Sorry to hear that, man.
And yeah, it was like I felt like I grew 6 years in 6 months. Like it pushed me into some really dark corners of my mind and of my life that I just didn't I'd not dealt with or thought about much and processed. And like at that point in my life, I'd never really gone to therapy much either.
Oh, okay.
So big fan of therapy now, I'll tell you that,
Yes,
because
agreed.
it really helped a lot to get me through and hopefully I think a lot of people through COVID found out that they needed it.
Yes, I
I'd
think
had
so.
little chunks of life where I kind of touched on it and had a couple sessions with somebody, but nothing really sincere and long-term as far as growth. But the story is that I just like, there's a couple moments I'm like in my house and I there's a Domino's pizza right by my house, right? So I was going and getting Domino's and I ate a whole pizza and I put it down on the couch and I realized I put the Domino's pizza box on top of yesterday's Domino's pizza box that was
Yeah,
still sitting on the couch, which is hilarious, but also just like a holy shit, dude. Like,
a wake up moment
whoa,
too.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, wake up moment. And then like immediately afterwards, I went outside and I realized I'd not gone. I had this beautiful backyard full of like all these plants that I fruit trees and orchids and just big plant guy. So like I had all this
I
stuff
can see
in
it in the
back there.
background.
Yeah. I'm just working on my collection now. But I had not gone back there in like weeks. So backtrack 2 weeks. I was taking compost outside and the lid was off the compost bin. And I was like, what the hell? That's weird. Why is the lid off? Like I always put the lid back on. Otherwise you get like flies and all kinds of crazy
Right.
stuff. So I went to go I put the compost in, I grabbed the lid to put it back on, and this little tiny hand like touched my hand. I look over and there's literally just a possum sitting there, and it just had like touched my hand to be like, hey, what are you doing with my trash? And I was like, oh my God, you're so adorable. Like what? At first I was like, ah! And I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, like you're so adorable. It's so fucking cool. And I was like, I'm not going to give you my trash, but like, I could see how you would think that as a human, I'm like, you're like, I'm bringing my trash outside. It's clearly for you. Like, I get this whole thing. So now fast forward 2 weeks, I go outside and like the possum had ate some rat poison that I'd put out and like had not just died, but like had already decayed to just being like a flat piece of like fur on the ground. And I just like broke down and like I had just a straight, just mental break. And I was like, I can't take care of this house. I can't take care of myself. Like I am incapable of living in this world. Like I just had a panic attack, like full on. And I went inside and then I just like kind of got myself to a calm place. And then I was like, you live by yourself. Nobody's coming to clean that thing up. Like that was your mistake and you've got to deal with that. So I went and got a shovel and a garbage bag and like disposed of the what was remaining of the possum. But I was like, in that moment, I'm like, I need to take a picture of this because I'm going to like want to remember this like
Right.
situation, this scenario. Like this is really symbolic for me, like to just conquer death in this way or conquer whatever this like everything falling apart. Like I need to like clean this up. Like I need to clean my life up. And so that picture is on the cover of Rotten and Decay, which is what that song is about, which is probably one of the reasons I stopped wanting to write songs through COVID was I just felt like I was in this really dark, depressed place. And I didn't want to put that out there because it's like, I don't want to sing these songs for the rest of my life. If I continue to be in
Right.
Dead to
Right.
Fall,
Right.
like I don't want to have to relive this moment that I'm feeling, like I just don't want to. And so I don't want to write lyrics like this, but like getting to sing these songs and put that, especially that song, to put some of the stuff that I needed to put in there. Because the chorus is just talking about like, I wanted to be forgotten and allowed to just decay. And if you don't have anybody in your life and you don't allow anybody to love you, you can't get hurt. And I think I've felt that way a few times in my life, and it's not how I feel right now, and it's not how I feel all the time. but I think it's a message that like it's okay that I felt that way and I needed to express it in some sort of way. So being able to put that on this song was really just, it felt like a full circle like stamp on like, yes, like this is something that you dealt with and something you still continue to deal with, these like just moments of like not necessarily even like wanting to kill yourself, but not wanting to be alive and exist in the world, you know? And so that is the other piece of art. And then Cerro de la Muerte, the first one, the artwork for that one is a picture of this mountain in Costa Rica called the Mountain of Death. And I spent a lot of time in Costa Rica this year. My current partner is in Costa Rica, and she's phenomenal. But like we would cross Cerro de la Muerte to go to the beach or to go anywhere south of Cartago where she lives. We'd have to go to cross this mountain. And I was like, it's called the Mountain of Death? That is so fucking metal. Like, hell yeah. And so like like it was like probably we'd met like 3 days before we were crossing that mountain. I was like, we have to listen to Slayer, like put it on, we're listening to Slayer as we cross this mountain. And then I had written this chorus that was like, this is my mountain, I built it myself. And so the first verse talks about like it's the mountain of trauma, the mountain of bullshit, the mountain of just like like just overwhelming emotion that we feel in our lives. Like it's just all the things that happen to us as we get older and go through life, they continue on. And the first verse is talking about how this mountain just piles up on top of you and you're like, it's crushing you. And you just like accept that I'm just going to live here in this cave underneath this mountain of crap. And like, this is my mountain. I built it myself. I'll stay here forever. I don't need anybody else. Right. So then the second verse is talking about like crawling your way out of that and climbing up and standing on top of the mountain and declaring yourself like a victor over it and being like, yeah, this is my fucking mountain. I built it myself, you know? And then at the end, I had the Mosh sing-along breakdown, end this song with a breakdown, Dead to Fall classic, was this, Call Me Death. And I was like, all right, well, that I'm going to call it Cerro de la Muerte. Like it's about a mountain. It's about a death mountain. Like this makes sense. Which is cool because now I've gotten like a bunch of people from Costa Rica who are like, yo, is that about Cerro de la Muerte? And I'm like, it is. Like, kind it's not about that mountain, but kind of is. Like, it ties into it. And then I would explain, like, I've been in Costa Rica. I spent like 3 months there this year and crossed that mountain a bunch of times.
Nice.
And so, like, yeah, the artwork for each just has a very, like, symbolic meaning to me into what the song is about. And they're all kind of about conquering the darkness and conquering I don't even know how to describe it. That just, like, that anxiety, that just nonsense that fills your brain that tells you you're not good enough.
Yeah, for sure. Imposter syndrome type thing. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's, none of us are good enough and we're never going to be, so that is like I tried to have like an image that ties to the song because each song is tied to a physical location and to a physical, like to a tangible memory of my life. And they're all kind of, if we do put it out on a physical release, it will be something called a Florida themed, because they all kind of have to do with the things that I went through in Florida. And so one of the reasons we want to do these like small pockets of releases is like, if I have 3 or 4 songs that are tied into a theme, it makes sense to put those out together as one thing, and maybe a 7-inch if we have a physical product. But physical product, we don't have a label. We're doing everything ourselves right now, which is an awesome place to be in 2022 because it's so easy. You just upload it and put it out there and people listen to it. You have your friends do videos, you have your friends do art.
Yeah,
we know people now that do that stuff.
Completely different than 10 years ago,
I don't need this mystery, how does music get released thing. It's just like I submit it to the distribution company and they put it out. I pay a one-time fee. It's pretty simple. So I think what we're going to do to segue back, we're going to keep circling back to the first thing we tried to talk about, is doing small chunks of releases. I envision 3 7-inches that would total about 10 to 12 songs that have different like ties to eras of my life. So I'd like to do one about the Midwest and about like winter. Then probably one, I was born in Europe. I moved to the States when I was 6. And now I live in Europe again. It's a desert climate. I've never lived in a desert climate. So like, it might be something I'm ready to start writing about my life here by the time I get to the 3rd one. And then maybe we could put all 3 together onto a one release with some more bonus songs.
Yeah, because then you have an album, you have basically nine tracks, which
Right.
is almost like a full-length album. Sometimes it is a full-length album. So yeah.
And the way people digest music now is basically one song at a time or three or four songs at a time. If you put out a full length, your fans, like your people who really like you, are going to listen to the whole thing. But like the like ADD nature, I know I do this with Spotify.
Right.
I'll just be like, all right, 3 songs in, next album,
Shuffle.
like
Yeah.
shuffle it up, So I think it's easier for people to process it one song at a time. It does kind of suck. I'm realizing when you go on Spotify that it'll be like knocked down below the albums. It'll be like you have to click on each one. You can't just listen to them all. So I think having them tied together onto a release eventually will take the singles down and then have like one release for maybe, because we did No One's Coming to Help, which sounds very different because it's like we did that one in our friend Casper's bedroom. Like we didn't even go to a studio for it. It was just like during
That was
COVID.
the one. That was the I was going to say 2020 release or something like that, right?
Yeah. We did it as a fundraiser for our friends at the X-Ray Arcade in Milwaukee,
Arcade, yeah.
and then Empire Productions in Chicago. And like I think we raised like $500 for each of them, just because they were struggling to stay afloat. It's like people who have supported us through our whole careers. Andy Parman is somebody who booked all our shows in Milwaukee for a lot of our shows in Milwaukee for a long time. So we wanted to support them in some way that we could, and plus we had the song ready. So it's just funny now to listen to it compared to recording at Bricktop with Pete.
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah,
difference.
The difference is pretty striking between the strength of because it was programmed drums, not live drums. It was us just kind of like figuring out how to do this digitally, But living in different places, it makes it that's the only way to do it.
So you brought up, what you kind of personally went through and such with your divorce and just depression and such and COVID and everything like that, which, honestly, you share. I know that might seem like you're the only one going through that at the particular time, obviously, but I too also went through a lull in that time period where the relationship that I was in fell apart. My dog didn't die, but the dog that me and that partner got together, that basically left my life altogether as well. So there were downs and ups and such like that, and I also went to a weird place in that time frame. But it sounds like you had your whole like, and I definitely want to get into the whole like not paying rent and just going around and traveling for a while, because I didn't have the luxury of doing that. But it does seem like a lot of people who persevered through 2020 came out on the other end a lot better, and whether that's finding therapy or finding help or figuring out, like I just kind of figured out that I do have imposter syndrome, and it is what it is. And I've talked about that on this podcast a bunch because I think it's good to get that out there because, I also don't feel like, I mean, I don't feel like I do the podcast good or I do anything good or, even things that I'm good at that I feel like, I just feel like, how am I here? Like, cause how I got to this point where I'm talking to you and, and at this point owning Lambgoat, that's crazy to me. Cause as a kid, I used to come here and just post, whatever and steal news from my little shitty website. And, after one of the worst times of my life, now here I am sitting at the top of owning it. And it's just kind of crazy. And other things in my life are going really well too. And it's just, maybe COVID kind of smacked me around a little bit, and told me like, hey, get it together. And I kind of just took that as like, all right, I'm going to get it together, I guess, in my own way, but also overcome those mental hurdles of like, dude, I could fucking do anything, like if you really just put your mind to it, you can do and accomplish anything. And that goes with like hiking, and that goes with like, doing anything. Like these things seem unsurmountable at times, but yet, and times seem fucking horrible and the worst you've ever had. And, like you said, you don't really want to live anymore and all this stuff. But some of the benefits of having those times go down in your life are the times where you need those low, just like in hiking, you need the low valleys and the high peaks to keep going. And
absolutely,
when you're at the highest peaks, looking down on the bald, you can see how far down the lowest peak was and where you've gotten to. And that's something that is, as a person, especially being in the hardcore scene and the motivating, lifestyle that comes with, to see where you've come from is just such a fucking like, oh man, like I hate that I lived through that, but I'm also fucking glad that I lived through, I grew.
I mean, that's the only choice you have, right? Is to you look backwards at it and like, did you grow? I mean, hopefully you did. If you didn't, you probably don't know, right? So that is and I think COVID's shown a light on a lot of things, and I think it was like with relationships, like you either got separated or you had a kid. That was like the two things that like most people had happen, you know?
Yeah, a lot of COVID babies and a lot of single people.
So yeah, exactly. But it is the idea that you can do anything, and you might fail, you might not do it very well, but that imposter syndrome stuff is real as well. You know, like that is like I still feel that way. Like I'm just like I still get astonished that anybody gives a shit about anything that I do.
Right.
You know, like or I at Furnace Fest last year, I met a dude who had like the lyrics for well, I don't even remember what song it was. I was at the Remembering Never show, and this
I
dude just
saw you
ran
there.
up to me.
I saw
Yeah,
you there. Yes.
dude, I had to be there, man. Pete is my boy, and like him fighting like he did, and then to come up and to just kill it, they were awesome. That was I was really glad I could make it to that set.
Yeah, we'll get into that. We'll get into that. Finish whatever you were talking about.
Yeah. But he rolled up and he had my lyrics tattooed on his rib cage. And my first thought is like, oh man, you ruined it. Like you ruined yourself. You have this bullshit tattooed on you. But like it is like it's mind blowing. Like something that I wrote down in my notebook that was like therapy for me or like my outlet or whatever was his outlet. And like he found a way and he wanted to show how important it was. And like I'm an asshole right now because I can't remember what the song was.
Yeah.
But like it was one of those like a moment in passing. It was like 10 seconds this exchange. But like I pondered that one for a while. I was just like, this is, you know, like you touch people in ways in exchanges with people that you don't even know.
Yeah.
You know, like just trying to be a good person and trying to be nice to people can sometimes just do wonders. You don't have to like go out there and conquer everything and be the king of everything, you know,
Right.
like it can do a lot just to be a good person and be nice to people, you know?
Yeah. And it's not just like, like where you say, like where you affect people's lives or you know, do anything in someone else's life. It's not just like where you're coming from your perspective as like someone in a band where you're creating music that actually, you know, gets passed around and such like that, where you do have that, that happens more prevalently to those people. Like, you know, obviously more people maybe heed towards your lyrics because, you know, they're going through something, but they also have access to that because, you know, you're doing releases and you're a signed band and you're touring and stuff like that. But also
Right.
for those people who think that they don't have an effect on other people's lives, like I talk to my friends all the time, and I have one that I talk to one of my best friend, and you know, after years and years and years and years, I've known this guy for 20 years. You know, he still's like, I'll say the most random small thing, and it'll affect his life in such a way that's like insane. And he'll tell me about it, and I'm like, what? You know, so like it's weird how you do alter people's lives just with even the most minuscule things that you personally do yourself. So like you do have an like people need to realize they do have an effect on the ones that they deal with on a regular basis and non-regular basis, and like you do have an effect on the world around you for sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I meant by just being nice to people and just like being empathetic and trying to be understanding of what other people's perspectives might be, and just also knowing that you may not understand everybody's perspective.
Right.
I think that gives just a great viewpoint and a place to just be open to that. Because people affect me constantly and just like things people say to me, you know, like they'll just like bounce back in my brain years later. And it's just like, oh, that conversation and this sentence that someone said, they don't even remember saying it. Yeah, for sure.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the Furnace Fest. We'll tie it in to the current Furnace Fest going down in 2 weeks. But
yeah, cool.
We definitely were there for the Iron City show with Remember Never and Norma Jean. And I have to admit, I was on the balcony for most of the show, but I hadn't seen Remember Never in a number of years. I had Pete on the podcast, and Pete and I kind of have like struck up this friendship in the last, you know, since having him on the podcast. He was one of the lucky ones that got to come over to the house and meet the dogs and all sorts of stuff. But
dude, the for real one, yeah,
because he was, you know, he's a big animal guy too. So it was a great time meeting him and that, and I've always loved all the bands that he was in, Remembering Never and Until the End and all that other stuff. So, but yeah, I had to go down to the pit for that particular part of the show because, like, you know, it's just so nostalgic. I saw Pete and the boys at 2004 Hellfest, like the last Hellfest or 2005, whichever one was the last one, you know. So
well, 05, I think was 05 the last, whichever one was canceled, right? But like the one before that one, the last one in Jersey, right?
Rexplex, yeah, that one.
Yeah,
I think you guys played that too, right? You guys.
Yeah. At the same time as Prayer for Cleansing. Like, I'm never going to get to see Prayer for Cleansing again. It's just the way it's going to be.
You got
Every
it.
time
No.
they do a reunion, I've got something that stops me from being able to go to it.
You
Like,
gotta-
now I live in Spain and I can't go.
Yeah, you got to come. You got to fly back over because
I looked. It was $1,200. I couldn't afford the flight. It's just the way it is. I literally was, because Undying and Pray for Cleansing and Code 7 playing like old, like, dude. I was like, so. Anyway,
really
we played the little small room, and I remember the drywall pillars. There was like these pillars, like, so.
Yes.
I'm like, nobody's gonna watch us. Prayer for Cleansing playing at the same time as us, like, and then the room was packed. It was like wall to wall, and there was drywall on these pillars in this like room, and the drywall wasn't there anymore when we got done. So like, the people had just moshed so hard they had just like torn the drywall off, and I was just like, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
That place was a total wreck, especially after the bad, the bad what is it, Lucky 13.
Oh yeah. We left that day and we played a show in Wilkes-Barre with Mastodon in front of like 17 people.
Nice. Nice. They have such a different crowd these days, Mastodon.
Yeah, they're doing something right.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was cool seeing you. We didn't exchange anything, or I didn't say anything, but I saw you in the pit there alongside me and whatnot, because obviously the show's going on and it's hot and fucking a lot of people are moving around on that floor. It was a good show. But you guys are playing this year. How did that kind of like, how'd you lead up to that? Was that something that they, had reached out to you prior on? Because you guys announced later than like the lineup was announced.
Yeah, so
the show.
I don't know the political side of, like, there was something I think with Victory and like the organizers in the earlier years on why like there wasn't Victory bands on the earlier Furnace Fests, I believe. And I may be, somebody's going to be mad at me for saying that or whatever, but I don't know if it was like Tony had beef with somebody or like somebody had beef with him or what it was.
Why would Tony have beef with anybody? Well, I don't know. That's news. That's new news to me.
I don't know. I did talk about Tony moshing at the Everything I Touch Falls to Pieces CD release show that we played at Fireside Bowl with Rise Against. There was like 500 people at that, and Tony, that was the last time anybody saw Tony mosh. So that was, I take some pride in that. That was awesome. But so anyway, we never got to play any of the original Furnace Fests, the first, those 2 years that they did it, or 3 years. And then last year we tried to get on it, and they're like, well, this one we're trying to get, alumni, people who played it in the original years to go through first. And we can maybe get you guys on next year. And then we had a booking agent at the time, and he was supposed to be getting us on it. And I was like, that's really all I care about, is I just want to play Furnace Fest. Like, I had so much fun. Like, I didn't go as like anybody's guest list or anything. I think I bought a ticket because like tickets were super cheap because people got scared of that third, whatever wave of COVID it was. But like, I think I bought a ticket for like $90 for like the whole weekend. And then I flew down, slept on the floor at my friend's hotel. And just like, felt like I was like reborn. Like, yes. I'm hanging out with people that I hadn't seen since I'd been playing shows. I had like some healing conversations with people that I'd been an asshole to. I had some like really cool, like, I haven't seen you in forever, like good embraces and great conversations. I had like people, there was a guy behind me at one point. I was in line to get a beer, and this dude was like, "Are you the guy from Dead to Fall?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "I'm buying your beer." And I was like, "Absolutely. Yes, you are." That's great. Me and Matt Matera hanging out on the grassy knoll, just like chilling like the old days, and like just really getting to like spend some quality time with people that I've loved and haven't gotten to see. You remember like a couple years before that though, that old face filter like app that people would take a picture of your face, and like it was that, but in real life. I was walking around, I'm like, except for everybody who was still vegan. The vegan straight edge people look exactly the same. And so there's something about that. Like, I was like, oh, you guys have a lifestyle that is working out for you. I can see that. Yeah. Nicely done. Nicely done.
Keep doing. If it works for you,
keep doing what you're doing. So then our agent was trying, I think he probably sent a list of like 10 bands, and like, we didn't get pulled on it. And then at the same time, like, we were not playing shows, and we didn't have any plan to record anything. And like, these songs were like kind of in limbo. I was traveling a bunch. And so he was kind of like, he was moving to a different agency, and he's like, I got to like take you guys off my roster. You guys haven't played a show in like 2 years. And I was like, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So then I was like, well, what's the email for Furnace Fest? Let me just email the dude. And like, so I just shot an email straight up. I was like, hey, we want to play. What can we do? And he's like, well, we don't have any spots left, but maybe we can get you on one of the pre-shows. I was like, cool, we're down. And then he emailed me back a couple days later. He's like, somebody dropped off. Do you guys want to open Main Stage Friday? I was like, 100% yes. I was hoping to play Saturday because I live in Spain. It's going to be, so I have to take 2 days off work to get out there, but like, totally worth it. Like, it's just, I think it's a great way for us to play. Like, people that live in the Midwest have probably seen us at these handful of shows we play a year. We played Texas a couple times. We made it out to New York and California a couple times, but like haven't really played like a true like metal and hardcore festival. So I'm excited to play for people who haven't gotten to see us since we started playing shows again. And I can tell even on like the Facebook comments, be like, "Oh, you guys are back!" I'm like, well, "Yeah, we've been like diddling around for a little while.
We've been doing a couple things here and there, but yeah,
things here and there. But yeah,
it's a good comeback because like you said, it pairs with the releases and it's all just a great time. But yeah, Furnace
and the 20th anniversary fits in there. But yeah, the Furnace Fest is just like
a vibe.
It feels,
it's a vibe.
But it feels like the fests used to feel. Like it feels like Hellfest used to feel. I never went to the other original Furnace Fest, but all those just like dusty, crusty, like DIY kind of like you don't know if the cops are going to shut it down or not kind of fests.
Yeah.
This one's definitely more pro.
For sure. Like, 100%.
But I think, and like security really started to like the first day in the shed, they were like, the security guards were like starting to freak out a little bit.
Yeah, they were like, "What's going on? Oh no!"
I mean, there was somebody got thrown down the stairs, like, and then like there's people who are at the fest who just do security, who are like hardcore kids, who just kind of stepped up and were like, "Hey, I think it was the cops actually. It wasn't like the security, it was the cops, and they're like, "Listen, we're gonna handle this. This is our culture. We understand. Like, they're not trying to hurt anybody. They're just trying to walk on people's heads. Like, it's fine."
Just killing, they're crowd killing, moshing, and stage driving on people. But it's all.
But everybody signed up for this. Yeah, everybody signed up for it. But it was like, in that moment was just kind of like, it was kind of cool to see the cops step back and be like, "All right, well, you guys want to handle it? Go ahead and handle it." And then it just was fine. Like I barely saw a fight.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't even think I mean, there was someone that got dropped. Like someone dropped over the railing, someone hit their head, I think during Knocked Loose or whatever, one of the nights. And that was like the only incident that I kind of really heard about.
They got knocked a little loose.
Yeah. But it wasn't something like there was no fights, there was no nothing. And like, dude, I mean, thinking back to that last year, and some of the coolest visuals were just like standing, on stage and just looking at the crowd and just being like, this is like under the Furnace stage. And you grow up watching those videos and watching those DVDs and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden you're there. I've said this before, and like you're there, and it's just like, holy shit! Like the whole thing was just like captivating, and like not to mention like the entire shed stage it was mobbed. It seemed like every band that played there had like a giant crowd. Evergreen played at like 1:00 in the afternoon, was like one of the first bands, and that stage, that crowd was insane. And yeah, like I felt real bad for the security, and like, I think Sunday they reined it in a little bit and didn't have as many people like on stage and just around. But that feeling of that, like having all those people on stage, it just felt like those festivals from back in the day, like where things weren't as dialed in as they are. Insurance wasn't as big of a part, and like all these safety precautions, so to speak, aren't really in place. But like, again, no one's getting hurt, and we all survived those times back in the early 2000s, late 90s and stuff. So and it just felt like that time again, and it did really transport you back into like a time zone of like, or a time space of like yesteryear. But
I mean, I messed up because like the whole time I had just like regular whatever general admission wristband. The first 2 days I'm just like checking out shows. I was like already way too drunk by the time 18 Visions played, and I'm in the pit at some point. I saw a video of it. I was like, oh god,
that's like daytime stuff too.
Yeah, I was chugging vodka or something. I was shirtless moshing for 18 Visions. Like, I'm like, this is like I love that band. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But like then Darkest Hour plays the last day, and I'm like, Tito will let me on stage. Those are my boys from way back then. Like, I'll be able. Let me just try. And then I go up to security, who's like letting people on and off, and I walk up to him, and he's like, where are you trying to go? I was like, up there, and he goes, oh, okay, come on. And I was like, I should have done this days ago.
Yeah. It was a great time, especially for coverage, because covering it that way, like via stage, was really cool, and getting the shots and whatnot. But yeah,
that Comeback Kid set was one of the wildest sets I think I've ever seen. Like that was incredible. Like they're a festival band. Like Andrew's one of my first out of town hardcore friends.
Nice.
When he was in Figure 4. I went to this Christian music festival, Cornerstone, that's in
Yes.
Illinois.
Mhm.
I think I was 15, and these people from Canada set up their tents overnight next to us, and they had like a in the early parts on like the smaller stage, early parts of the day, you could sign up for like to play 2 songs if you were in a band, if you had like a demo and you wanted to play. And so Figure Four signed up to play, and then that's when they got like signed and started like their like
Oh,
little
cool.
bit. Figure Four is like, at the time I would call them probably Christian buried alive. That's like the way they sounded to me at the time. But like he kept right next to us, and like I've known him since I was 15 years old, and so like we got to talk a little bit at the fest, and then just to like I haven't seen Comeback Kid in probably a decade, and I was just like, wow, like
Yeah.
they nailed it, man. It was a really cool set.
They nailed it so good.
See,
They're the only band that's playing it again.
and then the only repeat.
I think so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Figure Four is playing,
Figure
so it
Four's
makes
playing
sense,
too, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Misery Signals is playing.
Yeah, they're all there. 2 for 1.
And then they did the Misery Signals song.
Yeah, and Brendan will be there too. Yeah, Brendan from Counterparts he jumped in and helped with vocals during that song, and
that's right.
He'll be there this year too. So maybe they might bring him up to not be hungover and do it this time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm only there Friday because the time changed. In order for me to be at work on Monday, I have to leave Saturday morning. Because there's no direct flights from Birmingham to Madrid. Like, yeah, I have to go to like Charlotte and then New York and then go to Madrid, which is unfortunate. I would really like to be there for the whole weekend again because it was awesome. But I'll be there Thursday night. I can't decide if I'm gonna go see Unearth or if I'm gonna go to the Be Well set. Because McTiernan, Schleibaum, and Be Well, like that was probably one of my favorite unexpected performances. Was that really early Be Well set. Like McTiernan and the stuff that he said, it reminded me of like going to the Knights of Columbus and hearing like somebody preaching about like whatever, and just like and then just like going off on tangents about their beliefs and like how you need to take care of each other, and like just saying stuff that made me be like, yeah, I want to be a better person. And like it just felt like pure, organic, real hardcore. And I was like, it's just Brian McTiernan. He's a legend. Mike Schleibaum, he's a legend, and they're on this band together. Like, it's awesome. So I'd like to go see that set as well. So I'm torn on the pre-party, which one to go to. I obviously don't have tickets to either, but I'm going to try to pull my little strings, pull my Jon Hunt magic.
Same. We're going to try to sneak in with Evergreen for the Evergreen on Earth show. But I was going to say, if you're there, because I know I asked you what you do on Friday night, which you said you're leaving, but if you're there Thursday night, I'm pretty sure we're going to be at the same bar that I told you about. So like, if you want to come by and hang out, we'll definitely be there after the Evergreen show. I'm probably going to try to drag those guys, the Evergreen guys, to that bar too, that night.
I mean, I'm down to hang out Friday night. I'm not leaving until Saturday morning, but like,
we'll definitely link up.
But it's also going to be an onslaught of people that want to try to hang out. So like, who knows what's going to happen? I'm trying not to like sign up for too many things, but I'm just pumped to get to play. I've ordered 36 2-foot inflatable sharks and then 8 6-foot inflatable sharks. And then I've talked to like a number of people who are wearing shark costumes and have brought inflatable sharks. Because we're playing Chum Fiesta. It's like we've only played it twice since we broke up. So we're playing Chum Fiesta early in our set. And I was like, all right, I just want a sea of inflatable sharks, like just dominating the crowd. Nice. So, and like a full circle pit of sharks. So if you're there, and you get there early, come to our merch table because we're releasing our 2001 demo on cassette tape with Friend Club Records. And I don't think you've seen that like tape set that Furnace Fest does. There's like a whole series of different tapes, and we're one of those. And that was like the demo that got assigned to Victory that we recorded with Mike Hasty from Walls of Jericho in his studio in like 2001. So that demo is also like Can Drink. It's like old enough now, like it's 21 years old. But anybody who gets that, I think we're only going to sell 25 copies of it. And then I reprinted the iconic Chum Fiesta shirt with the blood splatter on the side. Nice. So people that come and get that before we play, you get a free inflatable shark.
Nice. That was a big thing. The side print, the side print was big in the hardcore or the scene days back in the day.
Just ink all over everywhere.
Yeah. Man. Let's. I want to get in before we get off here. I want to get into the whole like semi-nomadic experience that you lived at post-COVID. I mean, we're bouncing around, but I definitely want to get into that, and then the move to Madrid and everything like that, because that was kind of surprising when we were talking, because that, and again, I had to wait. This is the second podcast in a row that I've done with someone in Europe, which is rare. I've done European podcasts before, but not in a row. And this is the second time I've had to wake up early on the weekend to do it. So it's great. But
Yeah, it's really bizarre because I'm gonna go watch like the Bears game that's at noon in Chicago at like 7 p.m. at my friend's house.
yeah,
But anyway, so whatever. The
yeah,
divorce,
fell
depression,
apart.
COVID,
Sold the
all that
house.
stuff falls apart. I'm a teacher, so in Florida, I was in schools. I was teaching. I did that whole
What
school
do
year.
you before we get into like what do you teach? Like is
Yeah,
it elementary, middle school, college, high school?
elementary music. It's the
Oh,
the
cool.
best possible gig in the world. I jam with little kids all day. I played French horn in college. Always had this two
Trumpet.
sided. There you go. There you go. And I was like an orchestra nerd. Like I played in Midwest Young Artists. It was a private orchestra in Illinois, in just north of Chicago that had like, people that went to like really big conservatories and like playing symphonies and stuff now were in that. And those were like my friends on the weekends. So it's like sometimes I would play a show on Friday night and have to drive back to get to orchestra rehearsal on Saturday morning.
Interesting.
In high school, the big story was to go see Zayo in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and to drive back in a blizzard to make it back for rehearsal. It took us like 9 hours to do the 5 hour drive back, and the car spun out a bunch of times, and like it was really dangerous. But I had to get back for rehearsal.
All right, yeah.
But I have like orchestral music and metal and like hardcore. Those are my two sides of my musical kind of
That's super
place.
cool.
Yeah. So when the construction gig that I was doing in Sanford, I felt like I was like $10 an hour shoveling like drywall scraps. I can't do this for the rest of my life. I got to do something else. And I went back to school to finish my music degree. And so now taught elementary school music in Tampa. And I loved my school. I loved my neighborhood, but I just came to the realization that I was done. Like I was done with Florida. I was done with that place. The healing I needed to go through wasn't going to take place if I stayed there.
Right.
And I wanted this like, I loved the nomadic part of touring. I loved getting to see new places and see new things. And like, I had this list of all these places I wanted to go. And I just decided to sell my house, took half the money, set it aside, took half the money, and just wanted to see if I could make it a year without paying rent or paying a mortgage. So I started out, it was Furnace Fest is close to the beginning of this process because it was
Okay, cool.
early August. We played the show with The Killer, which was essentially the Rumble in Chicago, the hardcore fest that Shane puts
Right.
on there. But like it was Dead to Fall playing, so we just called it kind of like a what did we call it? I don't remember. I called it everybody's birthday because it was my birthday party. I was like, everybody missed their birthday last year, so this is everybody's birthday party. I think it had another name that we put on a flyer or something. But that was like the beginning, and I packed all my stuff up. My best friend Stix lives in Illinois. I dropped all my stuff at his house. I'd sold everything except for what I could fit in my tiny little 1999 Toyota Tacoma in the back with the truck, like the cover on it. Hauled it all up there, dropped the truck off, and then just kind of like started traveling. I did Riot Fest. I did Furnace Fest.
Nice.
I went out to California and
Were you flying or driving or walking,
I
riding
flew
a
out for
bike?
those.
Okay.
Yeah. I flew out for the festivals. I stayed in Chicago. I went up to Wisconsin. I went to a wedding. Went back through kind of Illinois. I went and saw. I don't know if you remember the band Subsist. It was like a really like a mid central Illinois hardcore band, but they did a reunion show. And I just happened to catch it as I was driving past. Dropped my truck off. Then I went to California, hung out with my friend there, Brandon. We did some hiking. And I saw Matt Matera, stayed with him in San Francisco. Then I flew to New York, saw my boys in Harlem, and then went and stayed with my high school best friend, and saw his, like, I hadn't even met his like second daughter yet. Got to like kind of just like experience my friends in their home and like the way that they operated and the way that they worked with their partners, the way they treated their kids, the way their kids behaved, and just like really got to like experience their life. And after not seeing people for 2 years, it was really valuable to get that. And then I went, after New York, I went back to Illinois. We went to the Bears game in Detroit on Thanksgiving. And
nice.
then it's like, me and the homies, because that was also like, that was the first anniversary of, like my anniversary was always around that time, right? So it was the first year post that I was like, I want to go do something different. So like I went and did Thanksgiving in Detroit. It was dope. And I didn't even realize the date. And that was the whole purpose of it. I didn't even realize the date until it was almost over. It was one of those just like, oh, wow, this isn't that big of a deal. I thought it was going to be a big deal, but like, I'm actually all right. Like, cool. Like, this is tight. And then I bought a ticket to Costa Rica, was going to go to Chile and then Peru, but I ended up like my friends that were going to go with me ended up canceling because they got too close of contact to COVID. And then they didn't want to you had to test in Chile at the time. So whatever, long story. Went to Colombia, But that's when I met my girlfriend in Costa Rica. Was when I was there. I was there for like a month and a half. Went to Colombia, went back to Costa Rica, then came back to Illinois for like a week. Then I went to Thailand for a month.
Mm.
But while I was in Costa Rica, one of my really good friends from high school is one of the directors at the school here, and he messaged me and he was like, "Hey, you're kind of transient. Are you looking for a place to land? Do you need a gig? This music gig is open in Madrid. It's a pretty dope school. We've got a lot of great things going for us. Would you be interested?" So I tossed my resume out. I interviewed, and I was like, "This is where I want to teach. Like, this seems like the kind of place that really would support where I'm moving. I'm like kind of." This is like the prime of my career now. I've got a decade of teaching experience and I'm ready to really make a music program pop. So I landed that job when I was in Colombia. They accepted the gig. Went back to Costa Rica. Then I went to Thailand. I had planned to do Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, like the whole cycle for 3 months. But because I needed to do all this visa stuff for the gig I got, I flew back to the States, did a landscaping job for like 6 weeks, stayed at my best friend's house, made a little bit of money, then went back to Costa Rica. And then I came back. I worked. I go on the same vacation every year. I've been doing it for like this was the 12th year out of 13 years. We didn't do it COVID year. It's called the Great Feral Escape. It's just like a bunch of friends that we met doing shows and through hardcore. And when our bands broke up, we decided to start going on vacation. So I had to come back for that. And then I worked Lollapalooza, made some money selling beer to people, and then flew to Madrid. And I've been here. Yesterday was a month, which is why I was like, I've been here a month. I haven't gone out into the woods yet. The Cercanía here is now like 10 euros for the rest of the year because they're trying to promote like to stop global warming and stop,
Right.
also because of the economic crisis and the energy crisis here because of the war, they made a decree saying that like for 10 euros, you can ride for the rest of the year anywhere you want. And there's a train that goes like an hour and 20 minutes away to this spot that's got dope hiking. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go check that out. And I did like a 13-mile hike yesterday, which,
Cool.
what is 27 kilometers? I still got to get that math right. Like,
yeah, get the.
I haven't switched all trails to be in kilometers yet. I need to switch it over just to like.
I was wondering.
I did my running app. I switched over to kilometers, so it's like you're gonna run a 6-minute kilometer. I was like, I don't know what that is. Like that length of distance.
It sounds fast though. It sounds faster than normal.
Yeah. Right, exactly, because it's a shorter distance, so it sounds faster. But yeah, no, I've been here for a month teaching. I love it. It's just like a great school. It's a great spot to be in my career. I'm gonna be here for at least a couple years doing this gig and then seeing what moves forward. But I don't think if I hadn't been like, let me just wipe the slate completely clean and not know where I'm gonna go and what I'm gonna do. Like I was buying tickets like 5 weeks before I went places, like just being like, this is where I want to go. I'm just gonna go there. And just doing it, like planning to a certain extent, but also just being like, when I got to Costa Rica, I didn't even know exactly where I was going to go. And I would just like meet people and be like, so what city did you come from? Like, and I'd stayed in hostels in the bunk room where it's like $5 to $10. You're just like sleeping with like in a bunk room with like almost exclusively 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like
but
22-year-olds.
You're also a tour veteran. So you kind of live those lifestyles.
I just try not to be the 40-year-old dude, like trying to like there's a little bit of weird social thing there, but people were calling me they're like shaman. I had one guy, a dude from Mexico, called me. Somebody else was like, "You're my party dad." Like just like I was like, I guess I could be your dad. Like that's pretty funny.
It's
but
like
yeah, whatever. I just
that Steve Buscemi meme. It's like how do you do, fellow kids?
Hello, fellow kids. But it was also just like, it was tour, but a lot easier because you're by yourself and you don't have to play any shows. Yeah. So like you could just do whatever you want. But the further I started in a very like in Tamarindo, which was more populated, kind of touristic, and just moved my way further and further south. By the time I got to the Osa Peninsula in the bottom, which is like really, really isolated, I stayed in this hostel. You had to get there by boat. You couldn't, there was like no roads there. And like the boat took you down a river and then dropped you off at this hostel, and like just got to see all these cool animals, doing a jungle tour through the Corcovado National Park there, and like did some snorkeling there, and like just really fell in love with the place. So I'm trying to get back every chance I can. I mean,
me and the boys
doesn't hurt that one of the sexiest women alive is also there.
Yeah, it's a plus. That's for sure. That's always a plus. Yeah. Me and the boys, my core group of friends, we've always talked about going to Costa Rica and doing that whole situation for a while. So we may end up doing that. I wanted to kind of touch base, like, how do you like being back in Europe? So you said you're born there, and it's been quite some time since you actually resided there. And obviously, you've lived in not only the States, but you lived in Florida during one of the weirdest times in the country's history of all time. So how has it been living over there? And then do you see, other than like you just kind of touched base on like the energy crisis with the conflict out in Ukraine and Russia, do you guys see anything like with like how does that affect you guys? Or are you in Madrid, and how does it affect Spain? Because like it affects us in a certain way, but you're way closer and you're way, you're in that little area of the world. So how do you like being back in Europe, and how does that affect it?
I really like it in the sense that it's just like it's a walkable city. There are like a billion. I'm right in the center in a neighborhood called Lavapiés, and there's just like restaurants galore and like awesome places to check out, to eat. The food here is just unbelievable. There's a Senegalese restaurant on my block that is premium, and I've never had Senegalese food before, but it's just like African food is just a thing you don't really like. You have like one restaurant in every city, maybe
If
in the
that,
States,
yeah,
like
if that.
if that. But like maybe one Ethiopian restaurant or something. But it is pretty cool to see like a diverse amount of food, and people take it seriously here. Like and that Napa's culture of like you sit down and hang out for a
Yeah,
while, and nobody has their phones out. And I see that as a difference in the culture. I'm still absorbing a lot of what the culture is here. It's a loud culture. People don't have a problem with like being up really late at night and yelling, and like people don't have a problem with just like uh, talking loudly,
yeah,
and it feels like certain parts of the States in that sense. But those are things like I'm the foreigner here, so I'm just absorbing what
right.
it is. I do like not having to have a car, being able to take a train places is
Plus, you
really
can
nice.
travel like other countries fairly easy in Europe. The
Yeah,
train system and even the flights are fairly cheap. Well, I don't know
I
about
yeah,
now, but
I can get to Barcelona in like 3 hours on a high speed rail.
yeah,
And I think the energy is probably the part that's affecting us the most because we are farther away than almost every other part of Europe from that conflict.
right, right, right.
Like Spain is pretty, and even like I was looking at tours. It's like all the tours like go to France and then don't want to cross the Pyrenees Mountains to go
That's
to
what I've
Spain.
heard. That's what I've heard. Yeah,
Yeah. So like, but I'm stoked. Like, you got the Gate Creeper shirt on. We already talked about our Gate Creeper tie-dyed shirt collection before we
yeah.
started the interview, right? But Gate Creeper's coming with Lamb of God, and I'm pumped on that. And then Carcass is playing the same night that Cult of Luna is playing, and I'm like, how is it that there's like barely any shows, and like these two
You're
shows I
right.
want to see are at the same night,
You have to
So
flip a
whatever. I might.
coin.
Yeah, no, I'm going to Cult of Luna. Like, I love Carcass, but Cult of Luna is just a live experience that you can't like.
For
It's
sure.
that's the one to go see for sure. Plus, it's a smaller venue, a little more intimate. Um, but I'm still really trying to absorb like how much I like it. There's differences for sure. Being away from your friends, being away from the people that you can just be like, hey, let's go hang out. I don't have a problem meeting people. I'm pretty social, but I'm also my Spanish sucks. So like I'm learning it slowly but surely. Like just to put it in perspective, in December is when I really remembered that there are different gendered nouns, and like the O and the A at the end of the noun affects like the gender of it. And I was like, that's how little Spanish I knew.
Right,
So
right,
like
right.
I am just like I'm new to all of it, but I'm getting there. The school I work at offers some lessons, which is nice. That's one of the reasons I wanted to come here too, is I do believe like learning Spanish, if you want to be a teacher, is a super important thing to be able to know. And I think it's just something else I need to grow in.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. But it turns out I teach at a school that teaches in English. So all the people there are Americans or speak English natively. So like if I need to get outside of that circle to really just dive
Yeah.
into the Spanish. It is the part that is fascinating to me is I feel like we talked about this earlier on. Florida had its like resurgence out of COVID so long ago. And then I was in California when it felt like it was like people are taking their masks off when I was there. And I was in New York when that was happening. And like Furnace Fest was one of the times that first times that people were together again. Same with
Right.
Riot Fest. And like people were just going off, and the energy was just vibrant and like just beautiful. Like everybody's just like ready to live their best life at that moment. And like it's happening right now here
Oh wow.
because
Yeah.
the controls were so much tighter in Europe that it's just like the festivals came back this summer, and like the people going out and like being in like being around each other. It's like everybody's popping off, and like I'm like I just felt like I've gotten to like do a little COVID tour. Like same with Costa Rica. It was like the masks were coming off when I was there.
Yeah.
Because like I feel like I've just gone from like the most like we don't give a shit place, Florida, to like then just like segueing all the way now to being into Europe where they had like way tighter controls.
You're the
Granted,
catalyst for
Thailand when I
that.
was yeah, maybe it is me, right?
Yeah.
But when I was in Thailand, that was still like Thailand was crazy. It was like people were outside on their scooters driving through the city wearing masks. And I was just like, they take the government mandate serious there. It's like you follow the rules. Like there's no option not to. So that was it was like, oh wow, yeah, the world still is locked down. Like I totally
Yeah.
forgot. Like that's Asia hasn't stopped. Asia's still pretty locked down. You keep hearing about China continuing
Right,
to.
right, right, right.
So I think that is it's a beautiful place to be, to see that rebirth of like social life when you pop into places. I'm curious how Furnace Fest is going to feel this year, because it's now, last year was everybody's like, yeah, we're back at it, and like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I love this, and like maybe you'd gotten apathetic and like your nostalgia had waned because like you'd gone to school and you'd had your kids, and like you'd done life, and like you'd stopped going to shows, and Furnace Fest felt like the crowd was mostly like in their 30s.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
for sure.
there was a younger crowd there for some of the stuff, but it was
But the
just like
bulk of
for the
it was
most,
the bulk of it was our demographic for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. People thinking they could mosh and like stop in 10 seconds in because like they're out of breath, like,
A lot of hurt backs, sore backs at the hotel every night.
oh, dude, this was the premium move, and I highly suggest anybody watching this that's going to Furnace Fest, pre-book this. You're gonna get a bangover on Saturday morning. You're gonna wake up, your neck is gonna hurt, probably from the Dead to Fall set. That's what I'm hoping. But I woke up Saturday morning and my neck was so stiff. I popped on my phone. I said massages near me. I went and booked like an hour and a half massage, and like it was a game changer.
Nice.
So book yourself a massage for Saturday morning before you go back into the fest. Your metalcore dad says,
Yeah, there you go.
You thank me later. But no, that's the way to go. But
Dead
it is
to fall.
yeah, we've leaned into that pretty hard. I'm the only
Yeah.
one who doesn't have kids, but like I've kind of like, I posted the video today of my very first show in Dead to Fall. It was in '99. I think I've done 2 practices with the guys after I joined the band. We took our half stacks and our drum sets to the coffee shop that the dudes in Chevelle owned.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and like played in between 2 like singer songwriter dudes, and like we literally brought in like giant like our half stacks and like just played full volume. And at the beginning of the video, you just see everybody get up and leave. But I don't even remember why I brought that up. Yeah, whatever.
I'm trying to think. Let me get you back there. What were we talking about?
I got excited about it. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. I can
Oh
get
no,
back to
the bangover. Bangover. Oh, old people.
No, the dad. Yeah,
Dad
because
thing,
I'm
yeah.
like, I told like the like, what's a pirate? I saw a movie the other day about pirates. It was rated R in the middle of the 2 songs. I'm like, I'm a dad already at like age 18. I'm already
Dad
telling
joke,
like terrible dad jokes too. Like I don't have good jokes. I just don't. Like that's, so I was laughing at myself a little bit on that one. Anton's wearing a sweater vest. We have like Jenko like pipe pants on. It's 1999. Like it was,
Jinkos, man.
yeah, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's cool to kind of like, let's bring this all the way back to where we started. It's cool to see how far everything has come, and to think that I was like an 18-year-old kid in that coffee shop, just excited to. I'm like making up the lyrics. I hadn't even written the lyrics. The song
Right.
is "Preying on the Helpless." Is like, I think I had the chorus written, and all the verses are totally different than they are on the album. But like that is like where it all basically started, was that in that exact moment. Like we had it on video. I think it's just pretty cool to think how far it is now. We're going to play this festival and we're like putting out new songs and people are stoked on it. And I can see, like I can look online and be like, oh yeah, Wednesdays, nobody listens to Dead to Fall, because I can see like the Spotify, like stuff.
Yeah, analytics, yeah.
It's like really weird to see like a dip on Wednesdays. I'm like, why does nobody like our band on Wednesdays? That's weird. But like, it's just multiple weeks in a row. Every Wednesday has a huge dip. So I don't know if people don't listen to as much music on Wednesday.
Spotify's algorithm. It could be the algorithm. Who knows? I don't know.
Could be people don't listen to music as much on Wednesdays because it's like hump day. You don't put it on as much.
You're in work and
you're
more into work those days. And then maybe Thursday you realize, fuck this, I'm going to listen to music some more.
Yeah, exactly. But it is, like to see it all come back around, and to it feels like just another circle back around to it, and I'm excited to continue writing music we've got a lot of energy now. Going to the studio with Tim playing drums and Anton writing the riffs that he's writing. We're ready to do some more songs. I mean, Anton's already sent me one that kind of has like an Opeth influence. That's like a totally different. Like these are 3 rippers. Like we're like, let's just write songs that aren't even 3 minutes long. Just straight up rippers with a breakdown at the end. Like just whatever the formula, which we call it the strength beyond strength formula. It's like it's like thrash verse, thrash chorus, thrash verse, thrash chorus, breakdown. Like that is the formula. Like because that's my favorite Pantera song. So I was like, that's what Chump Fiesta was like. We were like, let's write that formula. And so then Major Rager, we did it again. We're like, this is so stupid that we just keep doing the same thing over and again. Let's do it again. But that's what stupid is about, how stupid it is that we continue to write it again. There's that whole meta part of Are You Serious that I think was like lost a little bit on in translation. I don't think we articulated it very well in what we were doing, but I do love that record too. But anyway, thanks for having me on, man. I know we've been talking for a while.
No, yeah, by all means. I definitely don't want to keep you too long because we both are looking forward to NFL kickoff this today because Jaguars play.
Because by the stadium, is the Imperial still around?
Dude,
the venue that was by it.
I cut my teeth there. The building is still there. The venue's been long gone. The venue's long gone. But actually, I'm sure you know Mikey.
Yeah.
Mikey was the booking person for
yeah.
He's still doing his thing here locally. I'm trying to get him somewhat on board with us somehow, some way. We're in talks. We're working some things out because Mikey's a great dude. He has a podcast, Metal in the Brain, if you're ever interested in looking at that. Anybody listening, he's got it's like a look back into like metal and stuff. It's really cool. But yeah, the Imperial's still here. Funny you say that. The building is available. The little room is available, and I have so much nostalgia that comes to that little room. And part of me is like, would I move the Lambgoat office there somehow? Like, would I purchase or not? Not purchase, but like, will we lease that space and like have shows, but also have like a small office there? I don't know. But yeah, it's still there. It's no longer a venue right now.
Dude, if you do get that space, make sure either you get the power checked
or you
redo the power. I don't know if you were at the show we played with Shai Halud, where the bass player was playing and like literally got electrocuted, like full on seized while the electricity went through his bass and he like that. And somebody had to kick the bass out of his hands to like stop him from being electrocuted. Like, the scariest, I've never seen anyone get electrocuted. It was terrifying. And that was at the Imperial. Yeah,
shocking. No, but I mean, they definitely had some power issues because I remember seeing Tosin from Animals as Leaders in his previous band Reflux. That was
starring Ash on vocals.
Yeah,
of Sumerian fame. We played with Reflux a bunch, man.
Yeah, they were a cool band. They would always dude. That's my first look at Tosin, obviously, way back in the day, and he was killing it then too. So, but
he's a maniac.
He'd be playing, and the power just it would cut off. And that I remember specifically at that particular show, it cut off like a number of times during their set. But yeah, not to cut off that topic real quick, but I wanted before I let you go, because obviously football Sunday, and we both got teams we want to root for, and you got places to be, and I got things to do. You mentioned running. Switching your miles to kilometers. What kind of running do you do? Because I also go down that rabbit hole and run a lot too. So,
well, before I turned 40, I'd always had this goal to run a marathon, and I just I run I call it pounding pavement, right? It's just I need to get out and that's my meditative space is running. Sure. I've never had like the full on runner's physique or like been that into running. But like that was probably the best shape I've ever been in was when I trained for a marathon. And that really pushed me through that chunk of 2020, 2021, which was that year. April 2021 is when I finally ran one, but having to train, like going out and run for 2 hours, like 3 times a week or whatever it was, I'll never do that again. But now it's just, it's my preferred exercise. But I can't, it's too long to dedicate to running a marathon, but I love 10Ks, 15Ks. 5K is too short for me. I feel like it takes me 3K to kind of get into my grind a little bit. I'm not particularly fast. I just like to be a little bit faster than I was last week. And now it's a great way to see the city as well. It's very walkable here and you can see a lot, but I can see more running. And there's some really cool parks that I've been able to run through, and I'm trying to get some really nice routes down through Madrid. But I use an app called Run Coach, which is a free app. Yeah, and it you basically put your I want to get fitter over 12 weeks, or I'm running this race in 16 weeks, and it builds out a whole program for you. So it says Tuesday's your sprint. Here's the warm up. You're doing sprints on Tuesday and then cool down. And then Thursday, you're trying to do, pacing. You're trying to keep the pace over 10 kilometers over every kilometer being the same. And then you've got a distance run on Saturday and like build it all out for you. So like I just try to follow what that does and what that says and not take myself too seriously with it. It's
Yeah. It's
just like hiking. It's every step I take forward is one more than zero.
Well, yeah, for sure. And the reason I brought that up is because like hiking and running sometimes go hand in hand with trail running, and like that's something that I started again. That's a stupid YouTube rabbit hole. I was listening to like Joe Rogan's podcast, and this was years ago. He had like I think Courtney Dauwalter on, and she's like an ultra marathoner, right? She had just run like the Moab 240, which is a 240-mile race, like it's an ultra marathon, and she killed it. And I remember hearing that, and that like broke my brain because I was like, wait, someone ran 240 miles, not like nonstop. I mean, like they obviously like pull off to the side of the trail, just like lay down and sleep for an hour, but there's people physically and mentally like complete that, and it blew my mind. And I'm never gonna want to. I don't want to run the 240 or whatever, but like it definitely got me into the headspace of like, oh my god, the human body can do that. And then I was like, well, I've never ran, so I started running a couple years ago, and I'm not fast either. I'm not trying to be the fastest guy, but in my head I was like, maybe I can do distance because I can like pace myself and just do distance. And it's funny how you say like the 5K thing, because when I had an injury, so I just got back. August was my first month back after eight or 9 months off. I had like plantar fasciitis pretty bad. Yeah. So it's been a fucking grind doing 2-3 miles. It's been a grind, but I'm getting into it, getting back to it. The muscles are like, easing up and the tendons are getting used to that again. But
you got to switch your shoes out too, man. Like it's not when your shoes are getting worn, like not when your shoes are getting worn down, but you got to count your miles. And like I think the older I get, the more I run.
That's the problem. I had 500 miles on the one. Yeah. So now I got new.
But you don't think that. Like normally, like my shoes wear out. That's when I get new shoes. It's like that foam and like like this is the same thing as hiking. It's like duh. Now that I know that, but like, I didn't know that.
But no, I mean the goal I think would be I have a lofty goal of doing a 31 mile like the 50K. That's like a lofty goal that I'd like to have. And I was going for that last year, and I got all the way up to like running half marathons. You did a full marathon, so I've only run like the distance of a half marathon. I've never run one per se, like registered, but yeah, that's something that I really enjoyed. And it's funny that you say like the 2-3 mile mark. It takes you that long to get your body's like, okay, well, fine, we give up because you're not stopping. Your brain is not letting your body stop. You're pushing forward and you're mentally overcoming those hurdles. It's like once you get to that threshold, after 3 miles, 10 miles is the same thing. You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell everybody, if you can get past 2-3 miles, you can keep going.
Yeah, but I'm going to say this because when I ran the marathon, I never ran more than 21 miles. And when I got to mile 21, I knew it was mile 21 and it said that. And my brain was just like, this is the farthest you've ever run. Yeah. And then those were the toughest miles I've ever run in my entire life. Finishing that out, it was literally just like, just make it to that building. Don't you dare stop, because if you start walking, you're going to waste your average. You're going to waste everything that you just ran behind. You've got to keep going. And everything, like I literally like started crying when my muscles all just cramped up when I crossed the finish line, and just like, it was miserable. It was awful. But I was just also just like astounding what you can push the human body to do, Do you know? All right, so I wish I could tell you the name of this right now, because there's a documentary on YouTube about it. It's this maniac race that's in Kentucky or Tennessee, like an ultra marathon. Have you ever seen this, or you know what I'm talking about? Like he changes the route every year, and like he has like a page number.
Yes. Yeah, you have to go.
It's a page number out of a book, and it tells. Yeah, and like
I can't remember what it is, but I've seen so many.
That is like, I watched that documentary and I was like, these people, and no one like he's built the right course if no one finishes it. Like that's his goal, is to make a race course that nobody can finish.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
this is insane. It's like a smaller amount of
24 hours.
Yeah,
right.
It's fucking nuts. It might be 36. I don't know, but it definitely is
48 somewhere. Some insane amount.
Is it 100 miler? It's 100 miler, right?
I think the distance might change or the route changes. It's different if somebody finishes it, he makes it harder the next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard in general. Not that many people sign up for it, but I've also watched a lot of those vlogs, or like the Ginger Runner or whoever do those. And like and I've seen a lot of people obviously fail. Like a lot of people fail.
Almost everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, those things, like, see, that's the thing with YouTube, man. I get like enamored with these things, and all of a sudden I'm like, fuck, that's like a goal. Like maybe doing the Leadville 100 one year. And then a buddy of mine, his brother just did it, just ran the Leadville. And like, so I'm watching via his Instagram story because he's like, coaching and he's on the team and everything like that. And he's like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I'm like enamored with that. And I was like, oh, so someone I know is actually physically there. And it's like wild. And it's just so stupid.
All right. So have you ever gone down the woodworking YouTube wormholes?
I've gone down
Because we've
all
talked a lot about
rabbit
YouTube
holes. Yeah,
wormholes.
yeah, yeah. I've done
Yeah,
that.
that's
I've done
the other
all
one.
that.
I realized, and I bought all the tools, and I thought I was going to build stuff, and I built some stuff, and I realized I don't like actually building things. I like watching videos of other people building things. Like it's not that I'm a woodworker. I can build something. I can't be beautiful, right? Like I could build a shelf. It's not going to look as good as the shelf behind you, but it's
Yeah.
going to be a shelf. I can make it so it doesn't fall over. But like, I don't like the precision of woodworking. I like watching other people do it.
It's like a version of
So that's
ASMR that you like. It's like your
right.
version
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that.
So that's the other part. You've just got to learn, like, okay, yeah, you don't actually want to do these things. You just want to watch other people do these
Yeah,
things.
it's okay to
Uh,
not. It's okay to like try something out and then realize like either A, I suck at it and I failed, or like it's not really what I thought it was. I just like the aesthetic of watching. Like I like to watch the guy at Primitive Technologies build like his house out of mud in the middle of the
oh,
woods.
those are awesome. I
But I
love
don't
those.
want to do it. I don't want to do it. You know what
No,
I
no, no,
mean?
no, no. That's like that's a ridiculous one. Although the hiking ones, like I think hiking is better than anything YouTube has ever shown me for hiking. There's just like there's something about it that to me that's the one that really stuck with me. So
Yeah.
I'll stick with that wormhole and use that one in my real life.
Don't
There's
get,
all kinds of trails here, so I got to get into those.
there's something else for you to go down a rabbit hole since you're out there close to the Mediterranean. I got into a sailing black hole. I fell into a
I
black hole of sailing.
Now I've got a friend who has a boat, and you know what boat stands for, right? Break out another thousand. That's
Yeah.
it.
Well,
That's it.
I'm not saying you buy a boat, but like the sailing, I don't know why, but for traveling purposes, I just got like
Yeah.
I started watching people like circumnavigate the globe on YouTube, and it was
Yeah.
like, fuck. Again, that's just something that I'm like, who the fuck's doing that? And it just kind of like opens your brain up to a whole nother like
Dude, yeah.
version of life and how to look at life.
My buddy Pat has like probably like a I don't know the names of the boats, whatever. He's like a 6-person sailboat. You know, has a one sail and then you can put a sail on the front.
Okay,
It's like a decently sized boat, but we took it around Alcatraz when we were in San Francisco, and I was like, I've always like, but I've been to San Francisco so many times on tour. I never went to Alcatraz because like you're on tour, you don't have time to do this whole tour. It takes all day. So I was like, I'm gonna see it in a way that like most people never get to see it.
Right.
I'm gonna go around the thing on a boat. And like I didn't go on the island, still haven't done that, but like it was a really cool experience. And like he's like whatever tack and like all that stuff. You got up down and like I'm like,
Yeah.
what rope do you want me to pull? What? And he's like,
Yeah.
pull the rope. And I'm like, what?
It is scary. It's scary to be on there without having, because I don't know anything about sailing in general, but I've been on a boat a couple times and it was like, what? I don't know. I'm confused.
That's why you gotta have a couple beers so you don't care if you die anymore. Like
I did that. I did that as well. But
that's the move.
yeah. All right, John. Let's cut
All right,
it.
man,
Let's
peace.
cut it here. Let's cut it here.
Yeah.
And it's great to have you on. We're looking forward to all the new Dead to Fall stuff to come. Obviously, let us know how we can help going forward. Look forward to seeing you guys Friday, Saturday, obviously, or no,
Friday, 12
Thursday. Your Thursday and Friday,
Thursday
not
night.
Friday, Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll see you Thursday or Thursday, Friday. But yeah, man, I appreciate your time. Good luck out in Madrid. Spain's awesome. I've another, Google hole that I fall into. I've wanted to go there a couple times too. But yeah, we appreciate you being on. Thanks for your time, and go Bears, go Jaguars. Football is back, baby.
Yeah. Check out our new songs. They're on like every platform wherever you consume music, and fuck the Packers.
Yeah, that too. But you can find all Dead to Fall stuff on Lambgoat or dadtofall.com. All the socials, all the links, all the cool stuff you need is in the description.
Which buying deadtofall.com back was going to cost us $3,000. So I was like, fuck that. I'm just going to call it Dad to Fall. And eventually you Google it, it's going to show up because it's like a misspelling of Dead to Fall.
There it is. There it is.
One of the Furnace Fest admins was like, I'm not even going to approve this post because you misspelled the name. And I'm like, no, I didn't. It's the real link. Anyway. All right. Peace, brother. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.